Hey guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to log on to Edmodo and to view Article 1, the Legislative Branch Flipped Class. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to describe which House of Congress is considered the upper house, meaning which House of Congress is more difficult to be elected into and which House of Congress is more prestigious. By the end of this lecture, you will be able to provide specific examples to support your claim as to whether you believe the House of Representatives is more prestigious or the Senate is more prestigious. The factors we will be considering to help us answer this question is first qualifications, meaning what is necessary of a House representative or a senator in order for them to be considered for election. We will look at formal qualifications, meaning the qualifications that are explicitly described in the Constitution, as well as the informal qualifications, meaning the qualifications that are not explicitly described in the Constitution but have been set through tradition. Then we will look at membership and elections. We will look at the makeup of the two bodies of Congress and also the process that House representatives and senators go through to be elected. Next, we will look at congressional leadership. We will look at who is in charge of each House of Congress and also what the political makeup of each House of Congress currently consists of. And last, we will look at the congressional powers of Congress. In the Constitution, which powers were reserved for the House of Representatives and which powers were reserved for the Senate. And then also we will look at the shared powers that both the House of Representatives and the Senate have. Using these four factors, we will draw a conclusion to help us understand which House of Congress is considered the more prestigious House. And you will be able to provide specific examples from this lecture to help you support your claim. The first factor we are going to consider is qualifications. In order to be elected to either the House of Representatives or the Senate, you need to meet an age requirement. To be a House representative, you must be at least 25 years old. There are also citizenship requirements to be both a House representative and a senator. In order to be a House rep, you need to have been a citizen of the United States for 7 years. And the last formal qualification for a House representative is you must live in the state that you are running for office in. Although this qualification, live in the district you are running for office, is not a formal qualification, it's not explicitly described in the Constitution, throughout time, voters have also required that their House representative live in the district that they represent. Different from senators who represent the entire state, House representatives represent a district. In essence, the state has been broken up into a number of different factions, and one House representative represents one district. You could see how it would be in the interest of a House representative to live in the district that they are running for office in so that they are well aware of the needs of their voters. For example, if Lake Zurich's House representative lived in southern Illinois, that could be problematic as they wouldn't be as well versed in the needs of an urban area, considering that they would be living in a rural area. The youngest serving House representative is Patrick Murphy. He is 30 years old and he currently serves the state of Florida, and he is a Democrat. The oldest serving House representative is Ralph Hall. He is the representative for Texas, a representative for Texas. He is 89 years old, and he used to be a Democrat, however, recently has switched parties and has become a Republican. Now, in order to be a senator, you need to be at least 30 years old. You need to have been a citizen of the United States for 9 years, and you need to live in the state that you are running for office in. There is no district requirement for senators. As I explained earlier, senators represent the entire state. The youngest serving senator is Chris Murphy. He is a Democrat serving the state of Connecticut, and he is 39 years old. The oldest serving senator is Frank Lautenberg. He is a Democrat from New Jersey, and he is 89 years old. This chart real quickly illustrates the average age for both the Senate and the House. You can see the Senate has an older average age than the House of Representatives. Why might that be? Now, although there are only 3 formal qualifications for House representatives and senators, there are many more informal qualifications. One informal qualification is that most House representatives and senators belong to one of the 2 major parties. They're either Democrats or Republicans. There are very few independent politicians represented in Congress. The majority gender in Congress is male, and this chart illustrates the disproportionate representation of women in Congress. As you can see, in the 111th Congress, only 17 out of 100 senators were women, and 77 out of 435 House representatives were women. So as you can see, there is still much progress to be made in this field of Congress. Another informal qualification is that the majority of Congress is Caucasian. As you can see in this chart, African Americans are the largest minority represented in the House of Representatives. There are 42 African American House representatives. Hispanics are next in line in terms of representation in Congress. There are 3 Hispanic senators and 25 Hispanic House representatives. However, an area of growth for America is to see some American Indian and Asian Americans elected into Congress. Another informal qualification for House representatives or senators are that most are incumbents. This term incumbent means that a House representative or senator has already served in office. Incumbents are more likely to get elected because they are more familiar to their voters. They have more credibility, and quite frankly, they have more funds to finance their campaigns. Therefore, they gain more exposure through campaign commercials, and voters tend to vote for incumbents. This chart shows you what occupations tend to represent people moving from one profession into Congress. For the House of Representatives, the top 3 professions were public service, politics, then people moving from business to the House of Representatives, law to the House of Representatives, and then education to the House of Representatives, which compares to the Senate, where a majority of senators moved from the field of law and then became a senator. Public service was the second in line, business, and then education. So as you can see, public service, business, law, and education are the leading fields that most transfer into politics. To summarize this makeup, our current Congress is not an accurate representation of the nation's population. This could be an area of growth. In the future, we could see a more diverse Congress. Now we're going to compare the membership and election cycles of the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives is made up of 435 members, and each state's representatives is determined based on population. Illinois currently gets 18 House representatives. California, the most populous state in our union, gets 53. This is compared to the Senate, which has 100 members, which is allotted to 2 per state. Now, you can see that there's just not as much job opportunity in the House of Representatives, not as much job opportunity in the Senate as there is to be elected into the House of Representatives. It's much more difficult to get a position where there's only 2 available as opposed to a position where there's 18 available. In the House of Representatives, all 435 members are up for re-election every 2 years, which differs from the Senate, which exists a continuous body. 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election every 2 years. This started with the first Senate, where they were broken up into a class system. The first class was up for re-election in 2 years. The second class was up for re-election in 4 years, and the third class was up for re-election in 6 years. And this has been maintained to present day. Therefore, there's not a complete upheaval of many new freshmen House representatives joining the House, but a consistent body where veteran senators are always in place. House representatives have 2-year terms, whereas senators have 6-year terms. So the amount of job security is a little bit more stable in the Senate, where you have 6 years of job stability as opposed to 2 years of job stability. And then last, there are no term limits. This is an issue of controversy. Some people feel like politicians become career politicians. Incumbents are more likely to be elected, and they lose sight of the needs of their voters. This is an issue that you should consider. Do you think that congressmen should have term limits? The next factor we will consider is congressional leadership. The leader of the House of Representatives is referred to as the Speaker of the House. The current Speaker of the House is John Boehner. John Boehner is a Republican. He is a member of the House of Representatives, meaning that he is one of the 435 members. However, he is chosen by the House. The Speaker of the House is always a member of the majority party. Currently, the majority in the House of Representatives is Republican. So John Boehner was chosen by the Republicans to lead the House. The leader of the Senate is referred to as the President of the Senate, and the President of the Senate is also the Vice President of the United States. Joe Biden is currently the President of the Senate, and the President of the Senate will always be the same party as the President. Now, in the absence of the President of the Senate or the Vice President, the Senate chooses a President pro tempore. This individual runs the Senate in the VP's absence, and this individual is always a member of the majority party. As the Democrats are the majority party currently in the Senate, the President pro tempore is a Democrat. The last factor we will consider to help us assess which House of Congress is considered the upper house, we will look at congressional powers designated to the House of Representatives and the Senate. In the impeachment process, the House of Representatives is responsible for collecting evidence against an individual. Once the evidence has been collected, the Senate acts as the jury in the impeachment procedures. The Senate has the responsibility of conviction with a 2/3 majority. In the bill to law process, both houses are responsible for making laws. However, the House of Representatives is solely responsible for all bills for raising revenue, meaning tax bills. All tax bills must start in the House. Last, the House of Representatives is solely responsible for determining the president if there is an electoral college tie. In the case that there is a 269-269 split in the Electoral College, the House of Representatives is responsible for choosing who the new President of the United States will be. The Senate, as we discussed last unit, is responsible for approving all presidential appointments. This is a huge task, as there are many presidential appointments, and these presidential appointments are responsible for running the country. So the Senate has a huge responsibility to ensure that these are competent individuals, and they tend to side with the majority in the Senate. The last is the filibuster. The filibuster is the ability for a senator to block a bill that they know will be passed, but that they disagree with. This is the ability for a senator to take the floor of the Senate and talk and talk and talk until the bill is either delayed or the filibuster is ended through cloture, which means 60 of the 100 senators agree that the filibuster should end. We will talk more about the filibuster tomorrow in class. Some shared powers between the House of Representatives and the Senate are writing laws, proposing amendments, declaring war, and overriding a presidential veto. To conclude this lesson, I want you to consider which House of Congress you think is the upper house, and what specific examples from the lecture could you use to support your claim. Be prepared to share that evidence and your assessment in class tomorrow. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.